And today I'm going to be doing a review of Cape Fear Regional Theater's newest production, No Child. So before we dive into the review, I did get a couple of clips behind the scenes, so I wanted to show you guys those right now.
I can see you.
We're here at the complimentary where we see No Child here at the Cape Fear Regional Theater. A big thanks to Cape Fear Regional Theater who comped these tickets for us for Blogger Night. I'm really excited. This show is about school. I think it's about a school teacher who has basically gone the distance to help children. So we have a hopeful future educator here who can maybe learn from this, but we're waiting for the show to start. I'm really excited. Alright, now that we're back, I'm going to start with the review, but first we need to talk about what the show is about so you have a little bit of an idea in your head what you're going into with this production if you go see it, and what I'm talking about when it comes to the review. So I do have my phone here. I'm sorry I might be looking down to read you the about, but I wanted to give you the best about this show that I could. So, the show stars 5 actors who play 16 characters. The production follows Mrs. Sun, who is a spunky performing artist, or I would call her an actress, who comes to a tough school in the Bronx in 2006. The school, which I believe was called Malcolm X High School, was given a grant to allow Mrs. Sun to come and try and transform the lives of these students through the performing arts. While Mrs. Sun is desperately trying to make an impact by teaching these students a production that they're going to put on for their family, friends, and fellow schoolmates, she learns that she has to navigate teen angst and overworked administrators to try and make a difference in the lives of these students. So that is the about, but I did want to give you guys kind of my overarching opinion of the production, and that is that it is an emotional roller coaster that I definitely would not mind going on again. A lot of aspects of this production remind me of The Freedom Writers, which is based on a true story about a teacher who comes into a tough school and she teaches them how to express themselves through writing. And I compare it to that because it is a lot like that, except maybe a little less heavy. There are a lot more comedic moments in No Child, in my opinion, than there were in Freedom Writers, but there are just as many heartbreaking or heart-wrenching parts in that production. I did laugh a lot, and I also did shed a couple of tears at a specific part, which I'm obviously not going to tell you because I think you should go see it for yourself. So things that I noticed were that the show definitely shined a light on how hard it was, even back then in 2006, for teachers to make an impact on their students. It really exposes how much we rely on our teachers and overwork our teachers, and that was kind of something that hit me really hard because we do live in a state that really underpays teachers, and I do have a number of teachers who are in my life, including my mother-in-law. The teachers that I know are very passionate about their job, and they're in it to make a difference in the lives of children. I really did think about those people in my life who do this day in and day out, and they do it for very little pay, but they do it for the payoff of knowing that they're impacting a student in a positive way. Another thing that it talks about, which is a major theme in Freedom Writers as well, is the fact that schools that are in underserved areas, which unfortunately tend to be those areas where a lot of people of color live, the school system tends to treat them like criminals even when they're just in high school trying to learn. For example, in Freedom Writers, we constantly saw the teacher going out of her way to buy things on her own because the school would not even provide resources to her class because they said they're just going to tear up the resources. So she would go out and do what she had to do to help her students succeed the best that they could. You could tell in that movie that the students were so appreciative of it and they had never been treated like that before, and they were always kind of told that they weren't really going to go anywhere in life. And that was kind of a reoccurring theme in No Child as well. The theme was that oftentimes and a lot in those areas where there's just not a lot of resources given to those areas, and a lot of people who happen to be people of color end up suffering at the hands of those lack of resources. they're just being prepared for prison. No one expects them to go anywhere, and that's heartbreaking because I have a belief that no matter who you are, you know, you should be given the chances that everyone else gets to be able to get to where you want to be in life, and you should never be treated as though you're nothing and that you're not going to make any kind of progress in your life. So that was a reoccurring theme, and I will be readdressing that. So now that I talked a little bit broadly about it, I did want to talk about the sets and the acting. So one thing that I really love about the Cape Fear Regional Theater is that for these smaller performances, they actually have the audience sitting on the stage so that it is a really intimate performance. But because of that, you kind of have to walk through the side wing and onto the stage. And one thing that I love about Cape Fear Regional Theater is they always decorate that little wing area. It's not just a black space. It's something that is on theme, on brand with what the show is. So in No Child, since it is about 2006 school in the Bronx, they had it set up to look like one side was a hallway, and on that side there was like a row of lockers, and there were some things in the locker that I believe were kind of reminiscent of the 2000s, the mid-2000s. And there was also a metal detector, which revisits the idea of preparing students for prison rather than preparing them for success. And then on the other side, there was a line of desks, and I did take a picture. I think I've already popped it on screen by now, but I loved that they did that, and it just kind of gets your mind centered on the theme before you even get to the set. So then when you get to the set was so cool. It looked just like a classroom. It looked like there were papers scattered all over the ground, but they weren't like actually on the ground because that would be a slipping hazard, I guess. So it was like a laminate kind of thing where you could see the papers kind of on the ground. There was a chalkboard which kind of drove home the resources thing and how, you know, like in 2006 we had whiteboards, but a lot of schools that were underserved did not get that, and they were still using chalkboards even back in 2006. To kind of revisit the whole preparing students for prison thing, we did have, like I said, the metal detector, but on the sides of the set there was like a gate with barbed wire on the top. The idea that these students are coming into school every day and they're surrounded by barbed wire. So they're hardwired to think that this is what their life is going to be, that they're going to be trapped inside of barbed wire for the rest of their lives. And so I liked that the set communicated part of the theme of No Child. So next I have to talk about the acting, and I was shocked by the acting, and that sounds really bad, so I need to kind of elaborate. So I was shocked by the acting because, like I told you at the very beginning of this review, the show starred 5 actors or actresses that played 16 characters. There was one actress who played only 2 characters, and that was the person who played Mrs. Sun. And that made sense because Mrs. Sun had so many lines, so it made sense that she only had 2. But everyone had 2 or more characters to play. Mrs. Monet Marshall, and she played 3 different students and 1 other character at the end. And the reason that she stood out to me is because she did not have anything on her that indicated that she was not that student that she just said a line for, if that makes sense. So there were 2 other actors that I believe changed their costume a little bit between lines. One of them had a hat, and then one played a student, a janitor, and a couple of other parts. And when he was the janitor, he would have like a janitor's uniform that had like the name tag that's like sewed on, and then when he was a student he would have like something different on. The thing that was cool to me is that I don't feel like they needed to even do those changes because their characters were all so spot on, and the fact that they could switch between their characters so flawlessly was amazing to me. I know that the Cape Fear Regional Theater has amazing actors and actresses. I've never had a bad experience there where I feel like someone's not really good at their job. But if I were doing that, and I do have an extensive theater background, if I were doing that, I feel like I would mess up because some of these guys had lines one right after the other that were all different characters, and they had to change their voice or their mannerisms or something about them that would indicate that they're not being that person anymore. And they all did so well at it, and I never caught them tripping up, which the reason why I say that is because we went to a pre-show. And I usually always expect at any show where it's before the actual performance and it's like at the beginning, there are going to be some kinks. That's not reflecting anything upon the actors or actresses, but in my theater background, something usually always goes wrong on opening night. I remember when I was in high school and we did a production on the stage, we actually had a shelf that wasn't properly stabilized fall, and we all had to play it off like it was like a thing. And we all did really well at it, but something usually happens. Like, you find that something's not going to work out. But that did not happen here. No one messed up on their lines. No one fumbled. You know, and if they did, you didn't know. I was just really enthralled by that. Not that I didn't expect that, but I also don't think that I did a huge amount of research before I went because I like to be surprised a little bit. And I didn't know that they were playing so many characters. And like I said, they did it so well. They just switched between each one so flawlessly. Two more things I wanted to say before I kind of wrap up my review. So the first is that my husband is not a huge theater lover. I love theater. I love musical theater. But he's not really into that. But I think because of the connection that he had with the production, which is he has a lot of family members who are teachers and he wants to be a teacher one day, I think that it just kept his attention, and it was so good to look over at him at times and see him so focused and so invested in the plot and so invested in the characters. And even like several days after we saw it, we were still talking about it and how good it was and talking about certain characters and all that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate that when a production can really draw in my husband, because a lot of the times he's the only person I can take to these things, and so he sometimes enjoys them and sometimes he's like, I could have stayed home. But he was very happy that he didn't stay home because he really enjoyed it. The last thing I wanted to say before recommending to you that you go and see this production is that it is considered kind of PG-13. That's what they say on the site. And that's because there are a couple of instances where language is used and racially charged language is used. I think it's done in a way that fits the narrative of the story. So now I'm going to roll the screen crawl and I'm going to tell you a little bit more. So there are plenty more opportunities for you to catch a showing of No Child at the Cape Fear Regional Theater. It's running through November 17th and tickets range from $20 to $25. The price for the tickets will be well worth your experience. The show will leave you smiling and leave you in your feelings. There are 2 more remaining special events with the show. Tomorrow on November 6th, there will be a military appreciation night. All military personnel will receive 25% off their tickets when they bring their military ID. On this Friday, November 8th, Cumberland County school teachers can receive 25% off of their ticket with their teacher ID in celebration of Teacher Appreciation Night. That's all I have for the review, but before I let you go, I did want to let you know of something that I'm doing that's new. So I have a Redbubble account, and if you don't know what that is, it's basically a site where creators can upload their own graphics, their own designs, and then you can go on to Redbubble, find the design you like, and get stickers, hats, cases, posters, anything with the design that your creator has made. So I have made a couple of things so far, but I'm definitely going to be updating that, and I also want to put some merch on there, some quote-unquote merch, I guess, and that will be designs from the YouTube channel and from the blog. So it would be really great if you hop over there and support me. The link will be in the description and is right here on the screen. If you go see No Child for yourself, please be sure to tag me on Instagram and Twitter on your posts at GE Music Lover and let me know what you thought of the show. But that's all that I have for you for now, so thanks so much for watching today, guys. See you next time. Bye!